Ever since the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X have been talked about, speculated about, everybody has talked about the specs, the teraflops, how powerful each system will be. But not enough people are talking about the launch lineup. Sure, price is incredibly important, and we'll eventually know what the systems are targeting at E3 this year, but I want to know the games that I will be playing on both those systems when I pick it up on day one. And the other day, I came across an article with a rumor that completely astounded me. I thought it was absolutely absurd, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the launch lineups that I think will be there for the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. What's going on, guys? Randall419, the man with the million, back again with another video. Hope everyone is having a great day. And if you don't mind, if you really enjoyed this video, hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. So first things first, I know a whole bunch of you are going to look at the title of this video and say, Rand, that is utter clickbait. It's nonsense. What are you talking about? And you know what? I agree, because I got clickbaited myself. Just look at the headline of this article, which I'm using for the title. Xbox Series X might have a huge advantage over the PlayStation 5 at launch. I saw that, it was like, I have to know what that is. And after reading it, man, did I fall for it. And that's what clickbait is. And since we did a video yesterday talking about the rumored specs of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, I decided, you know what, today let's talk about the most important thing on these systems. That's the games you're going to be playing. Now, before we actually get into the article, we can take a look and see what games Microsoft and Sony already have announced for next generation. Spoiler alert, Sony has none. Outside of next year's lineup of The Last of Us Part 2 coming out in May and The Ghost of Tsushima currently scheduled for summer of 2020, which I think will release sometime in September, because keep in mind, September is still technically the summer. They don't have anything announced past that point. We don't know anything officially launching with the system or games they're making in the future. But with Xbox, it's a little bit different. They actually have some games announced already for next generation. The first being Halo Infinite, announced originally at E3 2018, and at this past year's E3, confirmed to be launching with Xbox Series X. And at this past XO, Rare announced their new game, Everwild. And of course, when Phil Spencer took the stage to officially unveil Xbox Series X, it came accompanied with the announcement of Hellblade 2. So with all that out of the way, let's dive into the ridiculousness of this article. It says that Russian video game journalist Anton, I'm not going to even try to butcher his last name, he said in a recent clip that the new Xbox will have substantially more exclusive games and overall games than the PlayStation 5 at launch. It's unclear where he got his data from, and Comic Book says he's had a fair share of accurate and inaccurate scoops in the past, but he was right about the announcement of Hellblade 2 and Death Stranding coming to PC, among other things. You see, the idea that Xbox is going to have substantially more exclusive games is the thing I take issue with. If you had said it has more, maybe by one or two, I could maybe jive with that. But when you use the word substantial, I am thinking over 10 more than PlayStation 5, and I don't really think that's viable or necessary for Microsoft to actually do. Keep in mind, they have Xbox Game Pass, a service much like Netflix, where you want to constantly be putting quality games into that month after month after month to keep people engaged. It necessarily wouldn't behoove you to actually drop 15 exclusives onto Xbox Series X day one, because that takes away from Game Pass. But it goes on, Anton claims that the PlayStation 5 will not have a single major exclusive at launch, offering buyers enhanced versions of popular PS4 exclusives instead. Now that is ridiculous to me, but I guess it really goes to what do you consider major, right? That is kind of the linchpin here. What do you think is major? Do you think only a game from Sony's first party is a major exclusive? If that's the case, there might be a possibility possibility where they don't launch with one, but even still, I think they will. And you know what? I think Sony knows that their launch lineup coming from their own first party is going to be small. Like, honestly, you're not going to have a new game from Naughty Dog. You're not probably going to have anything from an Insomniac or Sony Santa Monica or some of the big studios. The only one that might be available at launch is Horizon Zero Dawn 2, but I personally think they're going to hold that game for the launch window and actually release it in February of 2021. And I expect Spider-Man 2 to be announced at E3 2020 with the launch date of September 2021. But yeah, if this actually panned out and PlayStation 5 didn't have a single major exclusive at launch, well, obviously that would be a huge advantage for Xbox. But like I said, I think Sony knows they're not going to be able to get their big hitters out, so they are going to rely on third parties. And what did we see at the VGAs? We already saw, quote unquote, a money hat. A game, Godfall, from Gearbox Publishing is coming out exclusively for PlayStation 5 and PC, most likely at launch. And I think that will not be the only game that Sony spends money for to keep away from Xbox Series X at launch. I think you also see something from Bluepoint for sure at launch, probably the Demon's Souls remake, and 3 to 4, perhaps 5 third-party exclusives that Sony is going to make sure is only on the PlayStation 5 to give you a reason to actually want to pick up the system. But I don't know if they're actually going to have the big type of game that Sony PlayStation fans really crave. The Horizon Zero Dawns, the God of Wars, the Spider-Mans, a new IP from Naughty Dog at launch. Maybe they get Gran Turismo in there, maybe they do a reboot of SOCOM, but something on the big AAA scale is probably set for later on in year one and definitely year 2 and beyond. And of course, I do expect there to be enhanced versions of stuff like Last of Us Part 2 and God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn. Like, who wouldn't want to replay those games in 4K 60 frames on the PlayStation 5? I know I probably will, and I don't particularly care about replaying anything. But his quote about the Xbox is the one that kind of really set this whole thing in motion for me when I saw the article. He says, the Xbox, meanwhile, will get anywhere between 12 to 16 exclusives right on day one, although not all of them will be major releases. So like I said, we already know Halo Infinite is coming day one. I fully expect there to be a Forza game available day one. People go back and forth. Is it Forza Motorsport 8? Is it Forza Horizon 5? I'm gonna put my money on Forza Horizon 5 being that game that launches alongside Halo. And honestly, I don't really expect much else from Microsoft's first-party studios launching with this system. It really doesn't make sense for them because Halo is going to overshadow virtually everything else that they could possibly put out. Maybe the port of Gears Tactics, which is launching on PC in April, could be shifted over to the launch of Series X. And maybe Microsoft does have some indie titles through the ID at Xbox program that launch exclusively on the Xbox Series X day one on Game Pass. But like I said, for Microsoft, it's about Halo, it's going to be about Forza, and it's going to be about Game Pass. The idea of buying either Lockhart or Series X day one and having a library of titles available to you for free, I think that is what Microsoft is going to be investing their money in, unlike Sony, who is going to be investing their money, at least initially, in some third-party exclusives because they know the content from their first party will take a few years to actually develop. But if this did turn out to be true, if Sony didn't have a single major exclusive and somehow Xbox had 12 to 16, it would be a huge advantage. But I don't really think that's going to happen. I think they might have around the same amount. I think Microsoft's own Xbox studios will have 2, perhaps 3. Sony might have 1 or 2, and they're going to shore it up with third party. And I see that as how it's going to play out. So let me know what games you think will be at launch outside of the third party and the first party games. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, share this out on social media, and as always, if you want to be notified immediately when I drop new content, make sure you hit that notification bell. Thank you guys so much for watching, I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.